Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bree. I had to take a little bit of a break because I just needed it, but I am back and we're gonna do a reading vlog. I have two books that I'm currently in the middle of. So I've been saving September House for September because it's in the name. So I had to read it in September, and it's a haunted house book. It's perfect for like the beginning of fall because it's kind of a cozier horror. And I'm currently, this is upside down. I'm currently at what page? Work with me. 66 pages in. So I'm a little bit into this one, and so this is what I want to be reading physically. I've just been really wanting a haunted house book that's perfect for like fall and the beginning of fall when you don't want anything too spooky yet. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on for sure in this vlog. And then I did start at work on audio An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good, and I didn't realize they were stories. I thought it was one story in here, but it's like multiple little stories of this woman. So I had read the first story, which was An Elderly Lady Has Accommodation Problems, and I thought it was pretty good. And now that I know that they're stories, I just have to adjust my expectations. So the next one I have is An Elderly Lady on Her Travels. So this is something I'm going to be reading at work. It says like I have an hour or something left on the audiobook, so I don't think it'll take me long. And I might end up reading this weekend if I feel like it. But once those two are done, I'm still in the mood for some spookiness. So I think I'm either between A Dowry of Blood or The Reformatory by Tanana Review. I've started both of these before, and I put them down for the same reason, was that I was trying to read them out of spooky season, and I was like, I feel like these are just gonna be perfect for the fall, so I kept them. And this one is a vampire story that's told in like epistolary form, so I think it's like letters to Dracula from, I don't know what her name is, Constanta, and it's like about their toxic relationship. And I've heard just amazing things about this, and I've been wanting to read it, and I really like vampire things, especially in the fall, so I really want to get to this. But then I'm also in the mood for a haunted house type story, and while this isn't a haunted house, it's a haunted school, I still think that it's going to be really good. And I did start it and the writing was really good, but I know that this is going to be dark. I think they're both going to be kind of dark because they're dealing with like different darker topics, but I have heard that this one is darker and it's a longer, so you're sitting in it for longer. So I think it just depends on like what the vibe is once I finish these two, because these two are pretty like light in retrospective, so maybe I will be okay to go to something darker. So that's my thought, but I also don't stick to TBRs, so I could change it after I read these two. Who's to say, really? But let's just get into the vlog. I have some things planned for today. We're going to go drop off stuff at Donations and then also go to Half Price Books. And then it's my mom's birthday like weekend, so we might do something with them. I'm just waiting to hear back on what they want to do. And then, I don't know, probably relax, hang out. We had redone our room over in there. I'm actually in a different room. I don't know if that's obvious from this, but we switched our rooms around so that we could be back in the bigger room, and we painted and stuff, and so I might still do some things with that to get it finished because there's a lot still left to do. Yeah, I don't know. I have no real plans for the weekend, which is my favorite kind of weekend. So we're going to go out, we're going to get coffee and go to the bookstore and go to Donations, and then I'll see you when I have some things to talk about. Well, we are back, and we went to Half Price, and we got a lot of books, but we haven't been in a little bit, and so they had some good things. Sometimes when you go to Half Price, you don't find anything, and other times you find a lot. So I guess I'm just going to start with a book haul, and then we'll talk about my thoughts on the September House, because I am now 100 pages in. But first, let's see what we got. So we try not to buy a full series, but we saw these, and Noah really likes like Brandon Sanderson, Brent Weeks, Robin Hobb. I'm trying to think of other ones, but a lot of like high fantasy, and a lot of people have liked The Blade Itself, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and Noah really likes like a world where you can have like multiple series all interconnected, and I do believe that this is that. So this is the first like trilogy, and all three were there, and sometimes you just gotta take a risk. And we have the receipt, so I think we checked out the audiobook for him to start trying this one on his commute, and just to see if he likes it, because we have like 30 days and we could return these two if he like really didn't like this one. But we got those 3. And then I got the second book to this series by H.G. Perry. I read The Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry last year, and it was like one of my favorites of the year. And this is the second in the series. I have the first one. No, I have not started the series, but there was a hardback version of this, and I picked it up and Noah said, put it in the cart. So I did. And this is like a historical fantasy series that I think is during like the Industrial Revolution time, if I remember. It's in Europe. Oh, during Napoleon Bonaparte. And that just sounds so interesting to me. So I really need to pick up the series. I just haven't been reading like chunky fantasy, so I haven't picked it up. And then we got this one, which is I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. Both him and I think that this sounds like really good, so we're going to actually buddy read this one together. I don't really know much about it, except for it's supposed to be like a cozy fantasy. I think about a guy who has to like kill dragons, like he's a dragon exterminator, but then I think he starts to like realize that it's not all what it seems, and he like maybe starts to save the dragons, and I've heard it's just really cute and wholesome. And I have the Last Unicorn on my TBR, but I haven't read it yet. But this one came out like this year, and I've just heard like good reviews on it, and it's pretty short, so I'm excited that we're gonna like read a book together, because a lot of times we've read books that like one of us has read but the other one's just reading it and then we can talk about it, where this will be like reading a completely new book that we haven't read before. So, and then this one I got Rebecca Roanhorse Tread of Angels. This has been there for like multiple times and I don't pick it up because I've already read it, and for some reason I always say like if I love a book and I read it from the library, then I can get it for my shelves so that I have 4 and 5 stars on my shelves, and then I see them at the bookstore and I never pick them up. So finally I did, and I really like this. I think I gave it 4 to 4.5 stars when I read it, but it's one too that I think I would reread even though I know the mystery of it. It was just really good. I really liked it as an introduction into Rebecca Roanhorse. Though I think that the Black Sun series is very different than this one, so if you like wanted an introduction into Black Sun, I think this is different vibes, so I don't think you would get that necessarily. But then I got this, which is one that I've been wanting to read this author for a while, and I saw Mortal Follies. Sorry, this is very shiny. And this is like a historical fantasy sapphic romance, and I have been wanting to pick it up for a while because I think it reminds me in the same vein of like Emily Wilde's and the India Holton series and like Half a Soul, where it's just like fun historical fantasy romance. And I believe this is like a young noblewoman and a witch and a fairy. Well, I think it's a noblewoman and a witch fall in love, but then I think it's written from the point of view of a fairy, like telling you the story. So I really am excited to get to this. So when I saw it there, I had to pick it up. But then I saw that there was also this one, which is The Affair of the Mysterious Letter, and I believe this is more of a mystery fantasy. It said, in this charming, witty, and weird fantasy novel, Alexis Hall pays homage to Sherlock Holmes with a new twist on these renowned characters. I'm just really interested in this author. I think he wrote The Boyfriend Material, which is like a contemporary romance, and then these are more like fantasy historical-y, so I'm excited to give this a try. I'm like really excited about it, and I was like, should I just buy one because I haven't tried the author before? But Noah was very much in a mood to like say buy all the books, so we did. So yeah, those are the books I got. Quite the stack, which I've been doing really good about reading my own TBR, so I'm not like upset about buying new books because I feel like I'm actually like reading what I own, and then also mixing in the library, and it's just been like I've had a better, I don't know, relationship to books and book buying this year, so I'm fine with, you know, buying a few more. And now let's talk about September House, because I'm 100 pages in. This is definitely, I can see where it's like cozy horror in the sense that I find it really interesting, the juxtaposition of like the story itself is kind of like quirky and fun. We have a woman who's living in a house that her and her husband bought, and it's like an old like Victorian home, and when they buy it they know that like a lot of deaths have occurred in the house, and it starts with her talking about how every September the walls start to bleed and there's more and more crying and like noises, but then also all year round there's ghosts, and some she can interact with more than others. And so like she has like Frederica, who's like a maid, and she basically like can talk to her all year round and is very like friendly with her. But then there's like a little boy, and like there's other people that she like can't interact with, and they all like are very gory. Some of the gory scenes, like there was a scene with a priest that got really graphic, and there was like bugs and stuff involved, but it still maintains this like more cozy feel. And I'm interested to see like how it goes, because I do like cozy and I do like horror, and I liked The House with Good Bones, but I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, so it wasn't like 100% my thing. But I feel like this will be, and I feel like they're going to be in like the similar vein, so I'm really hoping I like it. We're basically following this woman whose husband is now like gone from the house, and her daughter is finally like, I'm coming to figure out what happened to dad. And you know that like the main character is like keeping something from her daughter, but you don't really know what. And then she's also like trying not to let her daughter know about the house and like all the things happening in the house, but also there's like something weird going on with the basement and this like master veil that they like talk about, but it's kind of vague. So yeah, all this stuff is like really intriguing. I think the writing is really easy to get into and really good. Like it's descriptive without being overly descriptive, but then when it does get to the gore, it like kind of ramps it up. I did start the audiobook because I was playing my Switch, and I do like the audiobook, but I do think I'm preferring maybe to read it physically. And the other thing is I do feel like it reads kind of quickly, so I feel like I could get a good chunk of the way into this today. I really have no pressure on it, but I am enjoying it, and I think it's a good introduction to horror in the fall, because if you want something that's like light horror, I guess, it depends, because like some people I know can't like handle any gore, and like I wouldn't say it's gore free, but it just has a cozier vibe to it that doesn't make it feel as like high stakes, I think, as some horror books, or as triggering. But I also think that this will be dealing with some topics, like trigger warning topics, because we are getting to learn some things about the husband, and I'm also like don't know what's going on with the man in the basement, and I feel like those could touch on some things. So we'll see as it goes on, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly, and I hope to read more today, probably play some video games and just relax, but I'll check back in with you when I have more book updates. Oh, the sun is really shining. Let's see, does that help? No. So I'll have to be better. So I'm at work and it's Monday, so I'm sleepy. But I finished last night the September House, and I don't know, I think I'm gonna go with like 3.5 stars. I was really intrigued at the beginning, but basically once you get like maybe 100 pages in, you start to understand like what this is really about. And I think the conversations Carissa Orlando was having, I think, was well thought out, and I could see the threads of it, and I do feel like there was a lot that I could relate to within it. There was supposed to be a tension that was supposed to ramp up throughout the story, and the middle part just kind of fell flat. I did really like the ending, but I think that the middle like 2/3 of the book had just a little bit of dragging. There was a lot of repetitive scenes with like her mom and her, and I think some of that could have been shortened or like given us a little bit different to get to like to show what she was trying to say, I guess. And yeah, I liked the writing and I liked the imagery and the gore of it, but I don't know. I really did like The House with Good Bones. I think I gave that 4 stars, maybe 5 stars. I can't remember. It feels like a 4-star in my head now. And this one, they're both like a cozy horror, and I don't know how much it really works for me, because I think that it's discussing like more difficult topics, but then it has this like lighthearted tone that I don't know fully matches. But then again, I don't want it to like fully go in depth with certain topics. So I don't know. I liked it. I just don't think it is going to be a favorite. Like, I don't think a cozy horror could necessarily get a favorite from me. But I do think that this was a really good one to like start autumn with, because if you're looking for something that's spooky and has like the gore, almost like, it's not funny, but like almost like one of those like spoofy horror movies. So maybe this would be good if you're someone who likes a little bit lighter on the horror. So that's that. I think I'm going to go with a 3.5 star on that. And then I don't have it with me, but I will probably listen to like a story or two of the elderly lady is up to no good. And I'll probably update that when I get home. Sorry. I will probably update that when I get home and let you know like more thoughts on that. I don't really have any thoughts on it. I thought it was good, but I'm not a big short story person. So that's that. I'll see you later. Hello. I'm on my lunch break. It is the next day. I did not update this yet, but I'm about the 50% mark, and I'm really loving this. It's hard to say, like, I'm loving this when this topic is so difficult. This is, like, a very haunting and horrific book. Like, so many things in here just, oh, I folded it. Just give me the ick, like, completely disturbing and disgusting. And the way that she writes this, it just is, like, perfect for the kind of story she's trying to tell. Hold on. I need the air on. This is just not going to work without it. Sorry if you hear the air. It's currently like 80 something out, so thank you. But yeah, what was I saying? That the way she writes this is like perfectly haunting and horrific for the story it's telling. It's so well crafted, and the way that she jumps between Gloria and her brother Robert's like I'm saying timelines, but they're in the same timeline. So just their events, their stories, is like perfectly timed. I think splitting between the two of them was really important because you're getting like Robert's perspective, which is so scary, so traumatizing. There's also ghosts, so like add that to the mix of all these horrific things, and it's being paired like, I feel like that location is being paired with the ghosts to show like the hauntedness and horrific things that people can do, but then like pair it with the supernatural, which always really works for me. There's something about pairing real world horrors with supernatural horrors that really lends itself together, and I really like the conversations that can come out of that about how humans can be almost like the bigger horror. And I wonder if that's kind of where this is going, because Robert can see the ghosts, but not everyone can, and that's starting to come into play more as the story goes on, and I'm really nervous to see where that goes. But having also Gloria's timeline is really important as well, because it shows like her side of trying to get her brother out and talking to all these people and having to go like do whatever she can to try to get him out. But like everyone has their politics in the matter. There's racism for one, but there's also like she meets up with like lawyers, and she's trying to find someone to represent her case, and like they're also playing their own politics, because it's not just like a case by case basis. Like it's with the double NACP is like fighting multiple battles, and it's almost like they have to decide like which cases are worth the cause, because they don't want it to like hinder the overall cause. And so it's like this feeling of like a lose-lose scenario for Gloria, but then there's also like this thread of hope, because she also has people that are trying to help her, and so it's like it's equally showing like the horrors that are happening at the reformatory, but then also like the struggle to just be heard and seen, and like the what's the word I'm looking for, like the double standard that there is, because the whole point in front of the book is that her brother kicks this boy because he was trying to sexually assault her, and then her father, from the beginning of the story, you know that he was kind of like considered a radical among the white people, and so they were afraid of him. And so this woman says that she was by him and it was a lie, and everyone kind of knows it's a lie, a lot of people do, and still like he can never come back. Like they're trying to find him to punish him for this thing that he didn't do. But yet when Gloria is trying to say that her brother was just protecting her, there is this whole conversation about like, well, you shouldn't air out other people's business, like it's the family's business of the white boy, and like it wasn't an assault to her. And so there's just a lot of that, so it's very infuriating. And I know that this is like indicative of a lot of Black people's struggles in America, and so it's only highlighting like real things, and I think that's what makes it even more disturbing, is just that these things happen and did happen, and that's why it's such a harrowing read. But it is so good. Like I can't describe like how perfect of a horror it is for what it's like doing. She's just crafting it so well. And I will say, if you're looking for something to really like freak you out or like give you the ick, I feel like this does this really well. So maybe this would be better to have read like mid-October when you really want like the full spooky vibes. But I'm really glad I'm getting to this because I put it off for so long. I looked on Goodreads. It has a 4.47 average rating, and I can already tell you that I think it's going to be a 5-star for me. It's one of those books where you just start from the beginning and it's like, this is 5-star vibes. I don't know, sometimes you get those like feelings from a book, and I don't often get that from 5 stars. Like usually I get to the end of a book and I'm like, yeah, that did feel like 5 stars. But sometimes you get those books where you are starting and you're only like maybe 50 pages in and you're like, this is gonna be a 5-star book. This is one of those experiences. So I know I'm gonna give it 5 stars, and it has high praise from the bookish community. So yeah, it's my recommendation to you. If you feel like you can handle that kind of content warnings, then I would highly recommend. I'm gonna eat my lunch. I have a little pasta salad. I've been bringing this to work. It's been really nice. I have officially am dairy free. Always been dairy free for like a long time because I have an allergy, but I've officially cut out gluten, and it's been life changing. Let me tell you. I feel a lot better, but that just means I had a whole nother learning curve of cutting out even more stuff. But I found these chickpea pasta. If you're gluten-free and you're like trying, or you're newly gluten-free and you're like trying to find some stuff, I really like it, especially for like pasta salads. I've tried like the Barilla brand, and it gets very like gritty, and I don't like that. This holds its texture really well and tastes pretty good. So they look like that, and I get them like most grocery stores. But I'm super excited because I've been having pasta salads, and it doesn't feel like I'm missing out on gluten as much. And then I also found a gluten-free and dairy-free, it's fully vegan, I think, feta. So it looks like that. You can barely see it. It's right there. That it like crumbles like feta and tastes so good. So it's been like upping the game. If you're like missing a feta and you're dairy-free, this one. It's called like Bio Life or something. I'll put a picture up. I know most of you probably don't care about this, but as someone who has had to cut out a lot of food in her life, there's nothing better than finding good recommendations from someone. And like, I really only found these because my good family friend, she has celiac. No, she does not have celiac. She has Crohn's, and so she has to cut out a lot of gluten, dairy, even more than me, grains, eggs, and maybe I'm missing one. So she came down and we were talking, and she recommended so many things, and it's been like seriously a game changer. So I always appreciate when people have things that they tried and recommend. So that's why I'm sharing that. And I'm also trying to share more outside of just book things, you know, because sometimes I get bored of just talking about the books and the videos. But I have been talking for 9 minutes now. So I'm going to eat my lunch, and I will let you know when I finish the reformatory what final thoughts are. But I think it's safe to say it's going to be 5 stars. So I finished the reformatory at work, and like I predicted, it was 5 stars. I loved it. It was very well crafted. I feel like the praise is well warranted for this. It's very harrowing, but then hopeful as well. And I think that the dual perspective just like really aided in the book for me. I really found I do like a dual perspective. I think going back between the two and seeing both the experiences of Gloria and of Robert are equally important in the story. And there is a note at the end that is talking about how she wanted to write this to be indicative of the system as a whole. Like, it's not just a single person who allowed things to happen during this time, and in reformatories like the one depicted in this book, and that it's the system as a whole that has really aided in it. And then also, she did bring up a thing to read. Well, she has a couple different ones, but the one she mentioned as like a companion to read to this is a nonfiction that I've talked about before on this channel, but not in a while, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. The New Jim Crow, and that's all about the incarceration system in the U.S. and basically how it perpetuates these systems that were in place during the Jim Crow era, and now just put a new kind of spin on it. And so I think that that book was really interesting, and I think this would pair well if you want like a historical horror, and then you want like an actual nonfiction to go with it. But yeah, this was 5 stars. I really am glad I got to it, and it is a lot. So all the trigger warnings, but I think it's well worth it and so well crafted. And I will be picking up more TaNaNoWriMo in the future. For sure. I want to read The Good House, so I'm going to be reading that soon. Maybe even this, maybe in October. I don't know. I don't want to promise anything because whenever I try to make a TBR, I don't stick to it. Sorry, baby. Mom's just trying to do her recording real quick. Well, I have a lot of updates for you. It's now Saturday. I took like 2 days off from filming just because I didn't have really any updates, and then I got my hair cut and I'm really liking it. It was much needed. It feels so much better to have it shorter and just not dragging me down so much. So that was after work, so I didn't really have any updates for you, but I did finish An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helen Thurston, and I think I want to go with like 3 stars on it. I think that I've learned I'm not a big short story person, and I didn't realize like that this was short stories. And the main thing is like we're just following an elderly lady who gets fed up with people and she offs them in different ways, and you're kind of just watching her go about her day. And she's a very unlikable character, which I don't always think like is a bad thing to follow, but in these like short stories you just don't get enough of her personality other than that she likes to manipulate people. So it wasn't my like favorite read, but also the stories were kind of like repetitive in my mind. Like you always kind of know whoever she's meeting is going to be kind of some kind of person who is maybe a little bit bad, and she's going to have beef with them and then she's going to kill them. And it just, I don't know, it lacked a little bit of like intrigue for me. So I'm gonna go with 3 stars on this one, which is sad because I think it's the cutest little book, and I do like that it was translated. I haven't read a ton of translated works and I wanted to be better about that, and this was translated from the Swedish, and I like that about it. And I think the translation was smooth. I just think that the overall plot of the stories just felt repetitive. So that's a 3 star for me. I ended up picking up Masquerade by Sangome. They pronounced it in the audiobook at the beginning, and I was trying to remember it, but I know I'm not pronouncing that right. And it's a 15th century West African inspired like mythology. And I had it on audio for NetGalley, and I've been trying to get better about doing my NetGalley arcs. And I just thought this sounded really good. It's about a young woman. It's kind of like a loose Persephone retelling, who meets this guy in the market, and then she is tricked and she's kind of whisked away to this new land where she becomes his bride, and he is actually the king of this new land. And she's from Timbuktu, and he brings her to which is Sengote, which is like if you can see in the map, Timbuktu is here and Sengote is here, so it's more towards the border. And this is in like what's now like Mali and Ghana and I believe that's Togo and Benin, but West Africa in the 15th century. And I was so intrigued. I got to like 30% of the book, and so I'm just like really liking it. So I decided to go to the the library and pick up the physical copy because I don't read a ton of audiobook when I'm not at work. So I wanted to like physically read it and maybe do a tandem read too, because I really like the audiobook narrator for this. This is really good. It came out already, which I was sad because I wanted to get to it before it came out, but I'm so happy I'm getting to it now because this is giving me 5-star energy. I think if you like Kai, I feel like the story feels similar but different. Like they're definitely doing different things. She's whisked away to be a bride, like unbeknownst to her, where in Kai, she kind of is like grown up to know that that's the expectation of her, is to marry off to another family because she's from royalty. But this, you're following someone who is like going into royalty and trying to understand all the politics. But it's similar in that they both are trying to figure out how to like navigate this world of politics, and also in this one possibly tyrannical husband, and just like what she is going to do to survive. And I have a feeling there's going to be conflict and things, and she's deemed like a witch because I'm not really sure why, but they're like blacksmiths that are a bunch of women, and they just are always called witches. And her mom, just how she grew up with her mom, and so now her mom has disappeared, and I kind of feel like maybe that's going to come to light more. And so you're just like slowly learning more and more about this society, and that things are just not as good as they could be. I think that really, other than like vibes to Kaikei, feels so similar to this, and I loved Kaikei, so I feel like I'm just gonna love this. It's so good. The writing is so good. It's got a slow pace, so if you're someone who likes a lot of action, I don't think it's gonna work for you. But again, like Kaikei, it's just the slow moving character story that I think works really well for me. So I'm loving this. So I'm going to be continuing reading this, and I'll give you more thoughts when I'm further in. But that's why we went to the library today. And I came home with a lot of things, okay? So we first went to the library closest to us because I thought this was there, and it turns out it was at a different library, so we had to go to two. So while I was at the first one, I picked up The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is a horror book that's been kind of sweeping around the booktube realm, and I think it sounds really good. The reason I've been a little weary is because I'm not sure about body horror as much, because with my chronic illness and stuff, I don't always love it, but everyone's been loving this so much, and it's just basically like a female rage story as well, I think. So it's about a girl who, her mom starts dating this new guy who kind of has like an Asian women fetish, and she starts getting creepy vibes from him, and then she starts getting fixated on his eye and eating his eyeball, and just like thinking about eating his eyeballs, and getting like more and more kind of like descent into madness almost. And it says Crying in H Mart meets My Sister the Serial Killer, in this feminist psychological horror about the making of a serial killer from a Korean American perspective. And that just sounds fantastic. So I'm very excited to give this a try, because I love when I can get on the hype train for these things. So I picked up that. I was really excited to see that there. And then, was this from the other one? I think so. No, I got this one at the first library. So this is Ruse of Shadows by Sherry Thomas. I don't have any... Sorry, cat hair's going everywhere. I don't have any immediate plans to read this, but it is a release that I've been anticipating. I like the audiobooks for them, so that's why I haven't picked it up. But I saw it there, and I thought, well, I haven't been getting to it because the audiobook hold is like eons long. So maybe I will physically read it when I want to get to something like this, because these are always just very like palate cleanser. If I just want something that I know the world and it's not so high stakes, and I just like, I'm reading a lot of like stuff like this, sometimes I need this to like balance out. So I picked up this one because I saw it there, and I thought, you know, I have been meaning to read this, so I got that. So then we went to the other library, which I've never been to. They're like connected, and it's not that far from us, and they had a whole section of books you can buy for $1 or $2, and oh my gosh, did they have so many options. So I found The Seven Moons of Molly Ameda by Shehan Carvin. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I'll have to look that up. But this is about a satire set in Colombo, 1990, in Sri Lanka, and I've just heard some really good things about this. And it's about a guy who dies, and then he, I think, is coming back. Like, you're seeing him in his afterlife trying to like figure stuff out. And I just think it sounds really good, and for $2 I picked it up because I think it's going to lean more literary fiction, which is why I held off for so long from buying it, even though I was intrigued and it was on my like want to reads. But seeing it there for $2, I was like, okay, if I pick it up and I don't get to it right away, then I won't feel as bad, because I picked it up like 2 or 3 times from the library and then kept turning it back in, because I have to be in a specific mood for literary fiction. So I like having them on my shelf for like a later time when I'm just like have that itch for literary fiction. So I got this one. And then I found The Measure by Nikki Erlich, which I know a lot of people have loved, and I've been wanting to pick up. And I keep seeing it like at half price and stuff, and I just put it back because there's other ones that I want. And so then I finally saw this, and I was like, okay, $2, you're coming home with me. And this is about if you got a string, it tells you how long you're going to live. The length of your string determines that. And so some people look at it and figure out if they're living for a long time or not a long time, and that changes how they act. And then other people choose not to look at their string. And so like, it's all about what would you do in this scenario. And I've just heard really good things, and it sounds like something I would really enjoy, because I like these kind of like sci-fi type books. So very happy to have this. And then finally, because I've been talking for 10 minutes, I also have a pre-order that came in that I ordered because Barnes & Noble was doing like a pre-orders were 25% off, but then if I had my Barnes & Noble membership, it was another 10% on top of that. So I pre-ordered like a lot of things for next year and stuff, but I had this one and it sounds really good and I've been wanting it, so I added it. And I had some points and stuff, so I could use rewards. forever to get here. I was a little worried it was lost, but oh. It's called Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. I read the Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein earlier this year, and I really loved it because I liked her retelling of Frankenstein, and this one is like a Dracula retelling. So a vampire escapes the thrall of Dracula and embarks on her own search for self-discovery and true love in this epic and seductive gothic fantasy. That doesn't sound like my vibe. I don't know what does. So I'm very excited to have this, and I think I will get to this soon. I think it might be one of my next reads after this. But yeah, so I got that. And also this cover is just like gorgeous. Okay. So those are all the books I have. I know that was a lot to throw at you. I'm going to try to read more of this today because I would like to wrap up this vlog tomorrow. And I really don't like leaving a book out there half finished. I know I can do it, and I'm pushing myself if I don't finish to just wrap up the vlog. But I think I can read more today because I don't have any other plans.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
So, and I'm very into this, so I really do want to get to it. So once I've made more progress, I'll check in with you, let you know what I'm thinking, and then, yeah, that's that. So I will see you later. Well, I was going to check in, and I was going to finish this on Sunday, and I was just going to wrap up the vlog if I didn't do it, but turns out allergy medicine has milk in it, and they don't label it the same as they do with food. So I had an allergic reaction to milk from allergy meds that I was trying. So that really threw off the rest of the weekend. So here I am. I'm working from home today. I'm on my lunch right now because I just was a little nervous to go in because I had ingested it and everything. I was just a little worried that if I needed something, I'd be at work and just a lot more stress. So I'm working from home today, and I've been listening to Masquerade. And I'm now, I think, like 60% through, so I'm a good portion of the way in, and I'm really still enjoying it. I will say that this, if you're looking for something magical, this is less magical. Circe, I read, and Kaikeyi, they both had some magic because they were dealing with more gods, and this, we have inklings of gods throughout, but for the most part, there's just talk of witchcraft. There's not really a ton of like actual magic happening. I'm unsure if we're going to get more magic as the story goes on, or if this is going to be more of a human story, but it did say West African, well, I guess it never said mythology. It does deal with like the Orishas, which is part of West African mythology, but I don't know if we're going to really get that much magic. Either way, I'm still enjoying it. And this just, we took a turn that some things I had inklings of, but like how it went down, had no idea. And it was just more than I was thinking was going to happen. And I really am enjoying the direction it's going. I thought I knew what the main conflict was going to be, and now I'm rethinking that based on what just happened. So the book so far has been really intriguing, but I do think that if you're a slow-paced reader who likes character stories, I think you would like this. But I think that if you're looking for like a big plot and you like characters but you need plot, I don't think this is going to do it for a lot of people. But that being said, I think the writing is really good, and I do highly recommend the audiobook. It's narrated by Ariel Black, I believe, and I think she does a really good job with it as well. We get to see a coming-of-age story for Dolo a lot. She's really like learning who she can trust, how she can go about getting the things she wants, and understanding that she is being forced into this marriage and trying to make it work for her. Hi, you can come in. And so she has a lot of things she needs to navigate, as she is unmarried as well. Like, they are engaged to be married, but throughout this story she is not married to him yet. So she's trying to like keep that position, even though it was kind of forced upon her. She's trying to use it to her advantage while also still maintaining some of a freedom about it, because she kind of knows that he's someone who could just take whatever he wants and does do that, but she also understands that maybe there are some ways to go about getting what she wants from this kind of arrangement. And so all of that I find really interesting, just seeing her having to navigate this world and this politics. And like Kaikeyi, she is very intrigued by like political maneuverings and like the like wars with other countries and things like that, and how she can get involved in them. So she's really trying to like prove herself as someone who can be kind of a confidant to the king. All of it is really, really interesting, and I really like the world building as well. It's not the biggest on world building, I would say. Like, there's imagery and stuff, but I feel like you almost feel like you're there without getting a ton of world building, which is something I really like. As long as your atmosphere is good, I can kind of fill in the gaps. So I really am enjoying it, and I'm going to try to finish. When I finish, I'm not going to make any promises because we know what happened the last time, and I'll let you know my final thoughts, and we'll wrap up the vlog. Hello. Well, I finished Masquerade, and I think I'm going to end up going with 4 stars. I really thought for a good portion of this book that it would be 5 stars, but unfortunately the ending just lost me a little bit. Not the actual ending, but the lead up, like the last fourth of the book. I feel like, and this could be me being wrong, but let me look up on Goodreads. But I felt like this was going to be a fantasy, what's the word? Mythology, fantasy. Yeah, so it's shelved under historical fiction. Well, first it's shelved under fantasy, then historical fiction, then mythology. And I really don't feel like there was any magic in here. Even the mythology elements in terms of like gods and those, there was like 1, maybe 2 like real instances of engaging with that, and it's very much just about our main character's story, Ododo, and her journey from becoming this like naive kind of young girl who is just doing what she's told and what her mother believes is right for her, and then being swept away to this foreign land by this king who decides that he's infatuated with her and she's going to be his bride. That was all well and good, and I liked most of it, but I wanted it to, like, I don't know, get a little more fantasy. I wanted it to have a little more intrigue in terms of magic and like how that can play into the story, and really it's just a slow story about this one woman, and they say in the book like that he's a tyrant and she's going to have to find where her loyalties lie. And actually most of the book I would say is her like accepting this role and like just navigating the politics of the role, but she doesn't really like question if he's a tyrant or not. Like, you kind of see actions of it, but the real conflict of the book is not until the last portion of the book, like very small portion of the book. And so I was left feeling a little underwhelmed, but I feel like the writing and the storytelling was great. I would definitely read another book by her. I think that her writing and her storytelling is really well done, and this is her debut, so I would really love to see like what more she can come out with in the future, because I do think that that was the strongest portion of it. It's just that for something that I was going into thinking was a fantasy and like getting glimpses of where there could be magic, I just think that this would have been so cool to see more of the magic elements. It definitely is a very loose Persephone retelling. Like, if you're going into it for a Persephone retelling, outside of being taken by a man who is like not that good and having the mother dynamic, I guess, of like the mother trying to like keep her daughter innocent and then her being taken away by a like tyrant, is true. But I feel like that's really where the comparisons end. Yeah, I was a little bored by the last bit of it. And then the ending was really good. But that was like the last, I don't know, maybe 20 pages of the book. Someone's very loud. So that's that. I'm going to go with 4 stars. And I'm going to wrap up the vlog here. So appreciate you watching. And if you want to leave any kind of red emoji down below, because I feel like I've been reading a lot of books with red in this vlog, I would love to hear it, and just hear your thoughts on the different books that in this vlog, or what you've been reading. I would love to hear it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.